Hello everybody and welcome to another WWE Raw Show highlights. We start off with Seth freaking Rollins opening up the show at Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. He makes his way to the ring with WWE Hall of Famer Paul Heyman, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed, while being introduced by ring announcer Alicia Taylor. Cole is joined on commentary by Corey Graves and says Pat McAfee has the week off. Then we saw the highlights from last week with Bron Breakker injuring LA Knight, who has a broken rib cartilage and a bruised sternum. Rollins starts by welcoming everybody to Monday Night Rollins. Rollins then asks the fans what they want, as they have been giving him mixed signals. Some fans then chant CM Punk, and Rollins tells them exactly what they want. Rollins then says 1 minute they're chanting for Punk, then it's the OTC, the original tribal chief. Rollins then says at one point they are barking for the dog, Bron Breakker. After that they are singing his song. Rollins then tells the fans they have no idea what they want and he doesn't care about what they want. Rollins then tells the fans they don't know what's good for him, so they need people like him to tell him what's good for him. Rollins then says he wants to try an experiment. Rollins then says even the things they think they want are because of him. Rollins then says Roman Reigns exists because of him. Rollins then says CM Punk came back to WWE because the fans chanted his name. Rollins then says Punk is back in WWE because the company wanted to cash in on how much Rollins hated Punk, and that's the truth. Rollins then says there is no second coming of Cody Rhodes unless he is there to put him on the map. Rollins then says for the World Championship he was the first. Rollins then says for the NXT Championship he was the first. Rollins then says those things exist as they are because he built them in his image. Rollins then says he is the creator, he is the past, the present, and this is the future of the company. Rollins then puts his arm around Heyman and says they know a thing or two about revolutions. Rollins then says every revolution faces opposition and he will deal with them diplomatically until that opposition pushes him and forces his hand, and that's what happened to LA Knight. Rollins then says Knight stuck his nose in their business and he got a tsunami after tsunami after tsunami for his troubles. Rollins then says in a few minutes' time, his dog, Bron Breakker, has an opportunity to do the same thing to another person who has been a thorn in his side, Penta. Rollins then says there are a lot of people who think they have what it takes to exist at the very top. Rollins then says champions like John Cena and Gunther, their respective challengers, CM Punk and Goldberg, or those left in the King of the Ring tournament, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Randy Orton. Rollins then says what they fail to understand is they are all running a race for second place. Rollins then points to the Money in the Bank and says that's the finish line, the end game. Rollins then says it has always been him being first. Now we have a match. A singles match. The Unpredictable Badass Bron Breakker versus Penta. The match starts off with Penta going to the ropes and hitting a Hurricanrana on Breakker, then takes him down. Penta then gets Breakker up and hits him with a springboard crossbody. Penta then kicks to the side of Breakker's head and Breakker is down in the corner. Penta then hits the double kick on Breakker and Breakker rolls to the outside of the ring. Penta then goes to the ropes, but Breakker gets in the ring and backdrops him. Breakker then stomps on Penta and he lifts him high up and hits him with a suplex. Breakker then grabs Penta, but Penta hits him with right hands. Penta then goes to the ropes, but Breakker hits him with a backbreaker. Breakker then goes for a cover, but Penta kicks out. Breakker then sends Penta to the ropes. Breakker then runs the ropes and hits him with a vicious clothesline on Penta. Breakker then places Penta on the top rope and hits him with a right hand, then drops Penta on the ring apron. Breakker then goes on the second rope, but Penta hits him with chops to the chest and he gets him in the ring, then hits him with a Hurricanrana. Penta then hits a super kick, but Breakker stays on his feet. Breakker then runs towards Penta, but Penta lowers the top rope and Breakker spills to the outside. Penta then drops to the outside, but Breakker catches him. Penta then lands on his feet and sends Breakker into the ring post. Penta is back in the ring and he runs to the ropes, then hits a senton on Bron Breakker on the outside of the ring. Breakker then sends Penta into the turnbuckle, but Penta hits an elbow to Breakker's face. Penta then runs towards Breakker, but Breakker lifts him up and drops him on his knees. Breakker then goes for the cover. 1, 2, kick out. Penta kicks Breakker's leg. Penta delivers some chops to the chest of Breakker and follows it up with a fisherman's suplex cover. 1, 2, kick out by Breakker. Penta then climbs to the top rope and Breakker goes for the Frankensteiner off the top rope but can't make the jump and slips down. Breakker then gets back up and hits the Frankensteiner. Breakker goes for the cover. 1, 2, kick out. Breakker then goes to the ropes, but Penta hits a kick to the face. Penta then goes for the Mexican Destroyer, but Breakker blocks it. Penta hits a devastating DDT. Penta then hits the Mexican Destroyer. 1, 2, close to 3, but no. Breakker kicks out. Penta then goes to the ropes and hits a kick. Penta then goes to the ropes and goes for a springboard off the second rope, but Breakker hits his devastating spear in midair. Breakker goes for the cover. 1, 2, 3. And your winner of the match, the Unpredictable Badass, Bron Breakker. After the match, Rollins and Reed make their way out to celebrate with Breakker. Rollins then approaches the ring and tells Penta that this is his one warning: stay out of my way. Next we have a backstage segment. AJ Styles is talking to Adam Pearce, and the championship match between AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio has been canceled. Dominic somehow weaseled his way out of it, saying he's injured. Also, we got some more news from Adam Pearce. Next week, on Monday Night Raw. The New Day will put their championships on the line against Finn Balor and J.D. McDonough next week on Raw. Next, we have a pre-recorded sit-down interview between Michael Cole and WWE Hall of Famer Goldberg. Goldberg tells Cole that there is no way he was going to let Gunther disrespect him and let it fly. Goldberg says that then he took his family and fans. He was just trying to relax by attending a show in Atlanta, Georgia. Nothing to worry about. Then he steps into a verbal assault from Gunther. Goldberg then says the lack of respect that night was unbelievable. Goldberg then says Gunther disrespected him in front of his wife, son, fans, and his adopted hometown of Atlanta. Goldberg then says he was not going to let it slide and he was going to get his revenge. Goldberg then says he doesn't care if he is 1 foot in the grave. No one will talk about him like that and get away with it. Goldberg then says Gunther put himself in a spot of him wanting a match. Goldberg then says Gunther was not going to get away with it. Goldberg then says he is going to make Gunther pay and he is going to beat some sense out of Gunther at Saturday night's main event. We then cut to Corey Graves and Michael Cole. States that he asked Goldberg if that match is his last match ever, and Goldberg told him it is. Cole then asked Goldberg what would happen if he wins his title in his final match, and Goldberg says that's an interesting dilemma. Next, we have the Queen of the Ring tournament, Jade Cargill versus the Prodigy, Roxanne Perez. The match starts off with Perez heading out to the ring and walking around. Perez then gets back in, and as they are about to lock up, she leaves and gets on the ring apron as the fans boo. Perez then gets back in the ring and hits Cargill with a slap and then slides under the ropes to the outside. Cargill then goes to the outside and chases Perez, but Perez gets back in the ring. Cargill then gets in and Perez clinches her in a headlock. Cargill then sends her in the corner and Perez goes for a kick, but Cargill blocks it. Cargill then hits a right hand on Perez. Cargill then lifts Perez up and sends her back in the corner. Cargill then goes for a clothesline, but Perez ducks and hits Cargill with a right hand. Perez then rolls back out to the outside. Cargill chases her and both women are back in the ring. Perez then goes to the ropes, but Cargill picks her up and slams her on the mat. Cargill then hits a right hand on Perez on the ring apron. Perez then hangs Cargill up on the second rope. Perez is back in the ring and runs to the ropes, but Cargill hits her with a backbreaker. Cargill then starts to do some push-ups as Perez rolls to the outside. Cargill then chases Perez and she hits a back elbow on the mouth of Perez. Cargill then lifts Perez up on her shoulders and begins to walk up the ring steps. But Perez lands on her feet and trips Cargill up on the ring steps. Perez then hits a drop kick on Cargill's legs, which hits the steel steps. Perez then hits a chop to the back of Cargill's leg. Perez then hits a springboard moonsault, goes for the cover. 1, 2. Cargill kicks out. Perez then clinches in a sleeper on Cargill, but Cargill slams Perez into the turnbuckle to break it up. Perez is on the top rope and jumps, but Cargill catches her and hits her with a follow-away slam. Cargill then hits Perez with right hands and a spine buster, then a choke slam on Perez. Cargill goes for the cover. 1, 2. Perez kicks out. Cargill then hits a super kick on Perez and goes for Jaded. But Perez rolls her up and bridges it into a cover, and Cargill kicks out. Cargill then goes for a kick, but Perez ducks. Cargill then holds her leg, and Perez has a kick to Cargill's face. Perez then hits a slam and follows it up with double knees to the back of the neck. Perez goes for the cover. 1, 2, kick out. Perez then hits some right hands, but Cargill gets to her knees. Perez then goes for pop rocks, but Cargill gets out of it and hits a kick to the face. Cargill then power bombs Perez. Cargill then hits Perez with Jaded. 1, 2, 3. After the pin, and Cargill is heading to Night of Champions to face Asuka in the Queen of the Ring tournament final. After the match, Cargill walks up towards the crowd that is on the ramp, and Asuka's music hits. Asuka then makes her way out, and she looks at Cargill as both of them face each other face to face. We now have the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the Ring General Gunther, coming to the ring. Makes his way down, and Gunther starts off by saying last week was supposed to be his celebration. But Goldberg came out and told him that he's next. Gunther then says he did a lot of thinking, and he thought about what it means to be next. Gunther then says usually it means being speared. Jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. Gunther then says Goldberg was the most destructive man in his generation in 1999, but now it's 2025. He is the guy. Gunther then says he is the best professional wrestler in the company, and this title proves it. Gunther then says there is nothing Goldberg can say that will change his perception of him, and that perception is he sees a 50-year-old one-trick pony that cannot lace his boots. Gunther then apologizes to Goldberg's wife and son for everything he is going to do to the man that used to be Goldberg. Gunther then says he is not like anyone he ever stepped in the ring with. Gunther then says it's his responsibility to make sure that the legacy and the myth of Goldberg dies forever. Gunther then drops the microphone and heads out of the ring. Next we have a backstage segment with Jackie Redmond asking Sami Zayn how he's doing. But before Sami could get a word in about his loss to Randy Orton last week, Karrion Kross and Scarlett show up. Kross tells Zayn he believed what he said last week, but what happened was that Zayn wrestled the Viper and he lost. Kross then tells Zayn that he would never be world champion. Zayn then looks at Kross and tells him okay, and hits him with a right hand. Zayn then tells Kross he is done talking to him, and he talked to Adam Pearce and their match is official. Zayn then tells Kross, "Tick-tock," and walks away. Scarlett and Kross will then look at each other and laugh. Kross then tells Scarlett he got Zayn. Next we have a match for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion, the man Becky Lynch versus Bayley. The match starts off with Bayley getting Lynch in the corner and hitting her with right hands. Bayley then hits an elbow to the back of Lynch. Bayley then goes for a second elbow, but Lynch rolls out of it and goes for a disarmer. Bayley gets out of it and goes for the Rhodes plant, but Lynch trips her up. Lynch is on the ring apron, but Bayley hangs her up on the second rope and Lynch falls to the outside. Bayley then slams Lynch face first onto the barricade and back into the ring. Bayley then climbs the second rope and goes for a double axe handle, but Lynch catches her arm. Lynch then goes for a disarmer for the second time, but Bayley hits her with a right hand. Bayley then climbs the second rope, but Lynch slams Bayley's arm onto the top rope and Bayley falls to the outside. Bayley then hits a running knee and follows it up with a modified side slam. Bayley then goes for the cover. 1, 2, Lynch kicks out. Bayley then goes for Bayley to belly, but Lynch lands on her feet and hits Bayley with a back drop. Both women are back up and Bayley hits a sunset flip into the turnbuckle. Bayley goes for the cover. 1, 2, Lynch kicks out. Bayley then climbs the top rope, but Lynch hits her with right hands. Lynch then climbs the second rope and she hits a suplex. Lynch then goes for the armbar and tries to go for the disarmer for a third time, but Bayley gets out of it. Bayley then goes for the cover. 1, 2, kick out by Lynch. Bayley then gets Lynch in the half crab, but Lynch makes it to the ropes. Bayley then hits a forearm to the face and both women exchange right hands, but Bayley hits Lynch with a manhandle slam. Lynch then rolls out the ring as Bayley was going for the cover. Bayley then goes to the outside, but Lynch sends her over the announce desk. Lynch then grabs steel chairs and she places them on top of Bayley. Lynch then gets back in the ring, but Lyra Valkyria makes her way out and tries to help Bayley up and gets the stuff off of Bayley, the chairs and stuff. Lynch then goes to the outside and she hits Valkyria with the right hand. Lynch is back in the ring and Valkyria is on the ring apron. Bayley then pulls Valkyria down off the ring apron. Lynch then knocks Bayley down and hits a baseball slide on Valkyria. Bayley then sends Lynch over the announce desk. Bayley then grabs Lynch and sends her into the ring post. Bayley then sends Lynch into the barricade and back into the ring. Bayley then climbs to the top rope, but Valkyria comes in and hits Lynch with right hands and the referee calls for the bell. The winner of the match via disqualification and still the WWE Women's Champion, the man Becky Lynch. After the match, Bayley gets angry at Valkyria and they argue in the ring with Lynch smiling at the ring ramp. We then head to the back where Chad Gable is with Ivy Nile. Gable motivates Nile, but Gable sees Penta. Gable then tells Penta that it was his pleasure to watch Bron Breakker destroy him earlier tonight. Penta then pushes Gable and Gable goes for a right hand. Penta then ducks and snaps Gable's arm. WWE officials then show up and break things up. Raquel Rodriguez is calling out Rhea Ripley to the ring. She threatens to drag her by her nose ring if she has to, and come out and get her beating. Ripley's music then hits and she makes her way down to the ring. Ripley then enters the ring and she hits Rodriguez with right hands. Ripley then hits a big boot and Rodriguez rolls to the outside of the ring. Ripley then goes to the outside, but Rodriguez spears her into the ring apron and she sends Ripley over the timekeeper's area. Rodriguez then pulls a Slim Jim table from under the ring. Rodriguez then turns around and Ripley climbs the announce desk and hits Rodriguez with a vicious right hand. Ripley then sends Rodriguez into the ring steps. Ripley then sets the table up in the ring. Ripley then goes for Riptide through the table, but from behind, Roxanne Perez jumps on Ripley's shoulders. Ripley has the strength to lift her up and slam her face first on the turnbuckle. Ripley then turns around and Rodriguez lifts Ripley up and hits her with a Tejana bomb through the table. Rodriguez then helps Perez to her feet. We then head to the back where Rhea Ripley storms into Adam Pearce's office and demands a match with Raquel Rodriguez. Pearce then asks her about having a street fight and Ripley agrees, then walks away. Next we have our main event, the King of the Ring Tournament Semifinal. The winner faces the Viper Randy Orton at Night of Champions. We have Cody Rhodes versus main event Jey Uso in the semifinals of the King of the Ring tournament. The match starts off with both men shaking hands, and Rhodes sends Uso to the ropes, but Uso hits Rhodes with a shoulder tackle. Uso then gets back up, but Rhodes trips him up. Both men are back to their feet and Rhodes hits a armbar on Uso and sends Uso to the ropes, but Uso hits Rhodes with a hip toss. Rhodes is back up and he hits Uso with a hip toss. Both men are back up to their feet. Rhodes then cinches in a figure four on Uso, but Uso gets to the ropes. Rhodes then grabs Uso by the leg, but Uso hits a kick to the side of Rhodes' head. Uso then hits a right hand on Rhodes, but Rhodes responds with a right hand of his own. Rhodes then goes to the ropes, but Uso hits him with a Samoa drop. Uso goes for the cover. 1, 2, Rhodes kicks out. Uso then cinches in a sleeper on Rhodes, but Rhodes gets to his feet. Rhodes then places Uso on his back and sends him to the outside of the ring. Rhodes then goes to the ropes, then goes for a suicide dive, but Uso hits him with a right hand. Uso then gets on the top rope, but Rhodes hits him with a right hand. Rhodes then climbs the top rope and hits him with a superplex. Rhodes and Uso then exchange right hands in the ring. Uso then hits a right hand and follows it up with a shoulder tackle. Rhodes then goes for a snap power slam, but Uso doesn't budge, and Uso hits a vicious snap power slam. Uso then goes for crossroads, but Rhodes gets out of it and hits the Cody cutter. Rhodes then goes for a cover. 1, 2, Uso kicks out. Rhodes goes for the disaster kick, but Uso ducks and hits him with a vicious spear. Uso then goes for the cover. 1, 2, Rhodes kicks out. Uso then goes for a second spear, but Rhodes hits a kick and jumps off the top rope and hits a second Cody cutter. Rhodes then goes for the cover. 1, 2, kick out. Rhodes then gets to his feet and goes for a crossroads, but Uso reverses it into a crossroads of his own. But Rhodes kicks out at 2. Uso then gets to his feet and kicks Rhodes in his face. Uso then hits another kick, then sends Rhodes to the ropes and hits a spear. Uso then climbs to the top rope, going for the finish for his Uso splash, but Rhodes quickly gets to his feet and hits a third cutter. then hits the crossroads for the 1, 2, 3, and your winner of the main event of Monday Night Raw, and will head to face Randy Orton at Night of Champions, Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. After the match, both Rhodes and Uso are face to face and they shake hands. Uso then raises Rhodes' arm and the show comes to a close.